Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 112. Welcome to the new year. I know some of you may be watching this later in time, but right now is the first episode of 2025. So, whenever you're watching this, welcome to your new beginning. I'm so excited to be here with you today. My name is Lisa Espinosa, and I am a spiritual career coach. And what I do is I help the helpers, right? So whether you're a therapist or a social worker or a life coach or a spiritual teacher, or maybe you're not even in the wellness profession. I have clients who are accountants, who work in marketing, but you have this heart of service. You have a heart of wanting to make the world a better place in your own unique way. Even if you're retired, I also have clients that are retired, and you're like, but I have more to contribute. However, the challenge often when we have that service heart is how do we do that in a way that blesses us in the process? So how do you keep helping? How this year, how do you help more people? Or maybe it's not about helping more people. Maybe this year it's about helping them in a deeper way, in a more profound way. But how do you do that when you already feel overwhelmed or you feel like I can't possibly do it? So often clients come to me in that moment when they're feeling like, I know I have more to give, I know I have more gifts to share, but I literally don't have time. I don't know how I would make that happen, right? And so I help them with that because the answer is always within you. It is. I know that sounds like a trick, but it's not. The other set of clients that I often have are clients who actually have pulled back. Maybe in the past they were doing so much and then they got sick or they knew, oh my gosh, this is way too overwhelming. And so now perhaps they're healing from an illness or they're or just have pulled back and are trying to figure out how does this second act look like for me? What does it look like for me? How do I help? How do I contribute? How do I share my gifts? I still have so much to offer the world, but I have no idea how to do that without burnout or without forgetting about myself or without, having to sacrifice my own enjoyment. And there is a way to do that because that is the way we're supposed to do that. So, anyway, that's a little bit about me. Today, we're going to talk about choosing your thoughts for the new year. And if you're watching this at a later time where it's not the new year, just apply the same teachings. It could be you can literally apply this at any point of the year. Really helpful for any sort of new beginning. So, as I was saying, welcome to 2025. When we start the year, it's very natural, it's very normal, it's almost expected that you set goals, right? That you are like, okay, what am I going to create this year? What am I going to intend to create in my life in this year? Now, if you missed it yesterday on Instagram, I shared a live where I talked about the importance of your relationship to goal setting. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I get overwhelmed by setting goals or I put too much pressure on myself, watch that Instagram live. And I also shared it on my newsletter. So if you're not on my newsletter, sign up for it because then you can watch it there. So I'm not going to go too much into that aspect of it. But this is really if whatever goals you've chosen, right? So again, you're a helper. So maybe your goal is, I want to help more people or I want to do it in a quote unquote better way, more effective way, or a way that feels really good to me, that doesn't deplete me. Or maybe there's something you want to create, right? There's a book you want to finish. There's a business you're going to start, right? There's artwork you want to share. I mean, it can be hundreds of things. Or maybe it's a financial goal. So whatever your goal is, and if you haven't chosen a goal yet, please know at the end of January, when is it? I think it's the 23rd. I don't remember, but it's on my website, it's on my newsletter, it's on my Facebook page. I'll put a link in the comments. I'm going to lead my first masterclass of the year. This is a free offering, and it's called Creating Your Breakthrough Year. And in that masterclass, I'm going to take you through a process of really getting clear on your vision for 2025 and really talking about what does it mean to have a breakthrough year. I'm going to be using that word a lot. Like that's the word my soul gave to me at the end of last year. And I was like, I love that. And I've been calling my consultations, I offer free consultations, breakthrough consults for years, but I had never thought of having a breakthrough year till my soul told me that, in a meditation, she was like, 2025 is a breakthrough year for you. And when it's a breakthrough year for me, what does that mean? It means that I'm not breaking through by myself. I'm taking anyone that wants to come along with me. So have your breakthrough year. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So you've got your goals, and it's very natural once you choose a goal for the year, goals for the year, that you start to think about the action steps. Okay, well, what do I need to do to make it happen? Like, what needs to happen? What are the action steps? And of course, there's going to be action required, for sure. But more important than that is your thoughts. Your thoughts create reality. Really, all spiritual traditions say that, right? I'm not making that up. It's just like, but it's one thing to read it and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and then actually live it. And so I want to share with you a process. How do you choose your thoughts for the year? The thoughts that are going to support and help you actually achieve the results that you want. Okay. And so I have a few notes here because I want to make sure that I don't forget anything and that I stay focused. So one of the things, this is one of the things I help a lot of my clients with, is to start to recognize, well, what thoughts are you having in your head, and do they serve you? And I know with our thoughts, it can feel like we have no control over them, like they just are in our head and that's it. But that's not true. We actually are sovereign beings, right? We have free will. And one of the most, I think maybe the most powerful things, tools that we have, abilities that we have, is the ability to choose your thoughts, your ability to believe something. Because what is a belief, right? I've said this over and over many times. A belief is simply a thought you think over and over and over again. So if you think, I am an amazing person, and you think that thought over and over and over, you believe it. On the other side, if you think, oh my gosh, I'm so slow, something's wrong with me, and if that's a thought you've had for a long time, and it's just there in the background, then that's a belief that you have, and that creates your reality. So what I'm inviting you to do today is to think about, what are the thoughts you have about this new year? That's going to be the first step. I'm going to take you through the process. I think I came up with, 5 steps. It's 5 steps. So I'm going to take you through this process of how do you choose the best thinking thoughts for this year. And for me, it's a lot more powerful if you narrow it down to like 3, maybe it's even just 1, rather than a whole bunch of them, because you're going to have to practice the thought. I mean, you don't have to do anything. You could just ignore everything I'm saying. But if you truly want to leverage this skill, like really use it so that your action steps actually get you the result you want, then you're going to have to practice the thought. Because think about this. If achieving our goal was all about the action, then everybody who took action on their goal would meet it. But that's not how it is. I mean, you probably have goals that, I'm sure there are goals that you set a goal and you took a bunch of action and you met it, and that was amazing. But there might be other goals that you're like, I have taken so much action and I still haven't met the goal. And there's various reasons for that, and one of them is that it's not about the action steps, right? One of the things I teach is a tool I learned from one of my coaches called the model, and we call that the A line. The A line is the action steps. It's not about the A line. We've been told it's about the A line, the action steps, but it's not. It's about the thoughts. So again, what are your thoughts about 2025? And that's the first step. So let's start. Let me share with you the process. And actually, before we do that, I want to share with you a card I pulled from one of my new decks, the Medicine Woman Oracle. And I pulled this for everyone watching live, watching the replay. It's number 28. It says gratitude. Feel how life showers you with blessings. Give thanks. Get this beautiful image. And I haven't even read the meaning. This is a fairly new deck to me, but I love this woman here sitting, or this person, right? And then to me, the way I'm seeing this is her soul. She's here meditating or just receiving, and look at all the blessings that are being poured forth, right? Receiving. And so you could think about 2025, right? That your soul is this way. Your soul's like, all right, I've got all these blessings this year. And all we need to do is receive them. However, our thoughts, your thoughts will determine what you receive. Will you receive the blessings from your soul, or will you receive kind of repeated patterns from that are created by old beliefs? So let's start with the steps, okay? First step, you probably know this if you've been watching my podcast for a while. First step is always set the intention. And that's very simple. I like to bring my hands to my heart and just say, beautiful soul, my intention is to deliberately choose thoughts that align with you, that align with my highest vision for 2025. And you can use your own words. And even if you're like, but I'm not sure yet on my vision, I'm not sure yet on my goals, that's okay. Your soul knows, right? Your soul is up there and she's like, I know what they are, don't worry. Right? So you're just saying, okay, I'm intending to align my thoughts with your thoughts, soul. Okay, now step 2 is very important. You're going to take an inventory of your current thoughts for the year. And I'm going to give you some examples. So, but what you're going to do is really think like, okay, when I think about the new year, what are my thoughts, right? And so, for example, these are some of the thoughts that I've heard some of my clients say, some of the thoughts I've had. And so one, for example, is I have to make it happen this year. I have to meet my goals this year. That could be a thought. This has to be better than last year. I had that thought when I came to the end, like kind of like the last few days of 2024, I was still in the process of processing, and I still am. I'm not done processing 2024, but I've done a lot of it. And I remember there were moments where I was like, 2024 sucked. It was so intense. It was so hard. It was so tough. It was one of the hardest years of my life. And I was like, and I don't want 2025 to be like that anymore. There was this grasping, like it has to be better. And although that might seem like a beautiful thought, the thought was actually coming from fear, right? So there's that. You might have thoughts along the lines of like, I have to choose the perfect goal. I have to choose the perfect intentions, right? I can't mess up. I've got to plan everything perfectly. Oh, Lorenza, I'm so glad you said that because I was like, who's Laura Ram? Welcome, Lorenza. Right? So maybe those are your thoughts. Or you might have thoughts of like, why bother? Nothing's going to change. I'm not going to set any goals. Or I don't want to set any goals because I don't want to be disappointed. I'm just going to go with the flow. Right? Or you might have, I'm already behind. Like, isn't it amazing that here we are, January 8th, I think, and our brain could offer us already that we're behind. This is why you're taking an inventory of your thoughts. What are the thoughts? I'm not going to meet my goals. I'm not going to make any goals, so I'm not disappointed. Or maybe your thought is like, okay, I'm totally in on goals, but before I make any goals, I've got to like first lose weight, or I've got to first, help my, this person with this thing, or first my health situation needs to improve, and then I'll set goals. So notice if there's thoughts like that are putting off your dreams. And so once you take inventory, and again, you're going to do this without judgment, right? Step 1 is you set the intention with your soul. So you can imagine your soul, your beautiful soul sitting next to you, like, all right, we're going to do this, Lisa. We're going to look, this is my soul saying to me, right? We're going to look at your brain and see what thoughts do you have about 2025. And you're doing the same for you, right? And this is recorded so you can take your time. I'm just going through the process a little quicker right now. So then step 3 is you're going to look through what you wrote, right? And then you're going to decide what thoughts to keep, if any, and what thoughts really do not help you, right? And you have to be very, very mindful when you do this because, like I said, for me, the thought like, okay, 2025 has to be better than 2024. Although that might seem like a beautiful thought or like a helpful thought, when I did my inventory, I was like, actually, that thought does not help. And this is how you're going to decide if the thought is helpful. Notice how it feels in your body. So when I had the thought, 2025 has to be better than 2024. I just felt pressure. There was this pressure. There was this fear of like, well, what if it's not? Like it didn't feel good. I realized that is not a helpful thought. So you're going to do that with your thoughts. Now, some of course will be obvious. You'll be like, okay, that's not a helpful thought. But some you might be surprised. So you want to check, okay, which of these thoughts is helpful? And if none of them are, do not despair. Just be like, okay, none of those are helpful. I am letting those go, soul. Though they do not help me. And now you're going to ask. So step 4, and these, again, I broke it down into 5 steps so you can get clear on what you're doing in each step. But it doesn't have to take a long time to do this. In fact, I really encourage you to set the timer to 20 or 30 minutes. Because if you're listening to me and you're like, oh my gosh, I love this. I need to carve out time. I need to wait till I've got like a 2-hour block. Now, unless that's something that's really easy for you, just know like that's just your ego complicating this. You literally can do this in 30 minutes. You can do it in a few 15-minute increments, right? And it's not about rushing. It's just notice again what your brain does to put this off, right? And so step number 4 is you choose the thought. You choose a thought or a couple of thoughts that are helpful about the year. Now, maybe there will be thoughts that you wrote in your thought inventory. Maybe when you do that, you're like, oh, I love this thought. This thought actually helps me. And you're like, okay, that's a thought I'm going to practice. And the practicing of the thought is a whole other skill set. This is something I teach my clients, right? It's like that's a whole, because it is, do not get me wrong. You have to practice it. It is a practice. It is a practice that you have to well practice, because if not, your brain is so used to thinking the other things that it'll go back to that. I know I've shared, so let me recap the steps and then I'm going to say this. So again, first step is you're going to set the intention, right? And it could be as simple as bringing your hands to your heart and saying, beautiful soul, it is my intention to choose aligned thoughts, to choose thoughts that are actually going to help me, thoughts about the new year. That's my intention. And you can use your own words. Step 2 is you're going to do a thought inventory. Now you're doing that with your soul. So there's no judgment. You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, these thoughts suck. What's wrong with me? No, it's just like, I'm going to be really curious. Like if you could just like look at your brain and be like, wow, there's that thought, that thought, that thought. Write them down, right? And then step 3 is you're going to decide, what am I keeping? What am I releasing? And it's okay if you decide I'm releasing all those thoughts. And then step 4 is choose, right? Choose or create. And you might do this with your soul. In fact, I'm going to do a little meditation right now to help you with that. Okay, what are thoughts that would be helpful? And you want to test them out, because sometimes you might say a thought, like, for example, I'm going to have the best year ever. Let's say you're like, that sounds like a great thought. But then like when you're like, hey, actually, let me think, how does that feel when I say I'm going to have the best year ever? Now, for some of you, you might be like, that feels great. My heart opens up. I feel so good. But for some of you, you might feel like, I just kind of shrink when I hear that. I don't believe it. It doesn't feel good. So that might not be the thought for you. Okay, so you're going to test it in your body. And then the last step is practice, right? And again, that's a whole other teaching. But you can start asking your soul, well, soul, show me, how do I practice? And one of the first steps is write those thoughts down. And I don't know if I said this already. Did I say this already? I can't remember. But I offer a free breakthrough consult, right? And I have open slots for January. And so for those of you who are like, oh my gosh, I want to have my breakthrough year. I want to figure out, to get clarity on where I am now. Where do I want to be by the end of the year? What are the blocks that are in the way? And what's the simple solution to get me there? I will help you with that. And please know that this is a non-judgmental space. I led a lot of consults the last 3 months of last year. And I was always surprised, I forget this, how many people were scared of coming to the consult. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to talk about this more. Because people, I don't know, it's almost like they had a part that felt like they were going to see the prince, even though they obviously trusted me or they wouldn't have come, and they thought I was a compassionate person. It still felt like, I'm going to be called out, or it's going to be uncomfortable. And actually the opposite is true. There's so much relief and having a space where someone is listening without judgment, where somebody helps you get clarity. Even if we don't end up working together, because at the end of the consult, if I feel I can help you more, I will share the details of my coaching program. But even if you decide, or if we're just not a good fit, the consult itself will still be so valuable for you. That's why I call it a breakthrough consult, because it's my intention that you have a breakthrough, whether we end up working together or not. And actually, it's my intention that we both have a breakthrough, right? And I definitely experienced that last year with so many, it was all women, yeah, that I had consults with. Anyway, I will put the link of that in the comments, and I could certainly help you with this if this is something that you're like, oh my gosh, I identified these thoughts, or I have a really hard time doing that. We can talk about that. Okay? So what I was going to show you is some of my thoughts that after I did my inventory, and I was like, okay, these thoughts are not helpful. It was amazing to me to catch that thought that lingers and comes so often, is this thought of I'm behind. I was like, that is so funny that my brain's already offering me this, right? That my brain, and especially, I took 2 weeks off, which I hadn't done in a long time. So meaning I didn't see clients, I didn't teach classes, I didn't do my podcast, and I really needed that time, right? I always do need the time, but after last year, I really needed that time. And then the first week I got really sick, of course. And so I really did nothing. But there was this, as I was still in that time, there was, I was seeing all the, on social media, all these like other coaches sharing like, oh, what are your goals for the year? All this stuff. And that's great. I'm not judging them at all. But it was bringing up for me like, oh, I haven't posted anything. Oh my gosh, I have to start teaching my classes. And I had to like really breathe and be like, no, I know that I need to rest so that I can really show up and be of service. But that's a thought that doesn't help me, right? The I'm behind thought. So when I did my thought inventory, I saw the unhelpful thoughts, even the thought, like I said earlier, of like, okay, this year has to be a better year. That was also coming from attachment and control. And so as I've been working on these, and I'm still working on it, but one of the thoughts, kind of this idea a little bit, I'll probably make it more concise, is I have so much more capacity and wisdom than last year. My success is inevitable. I love that thought. Now, of course, I define success a certain way, right? So I need to make sure that I align with what success looks like for me, right? But I love acknowledging like, oh yeah, I have way more wisdom and capacity than I did last year because of the challenging things that happened last year, right? And then I have another thought is I'm keeping it simple. In fact, simple is one of my words of the year. I was shocked. I thought it, and I'm actually playing with the idea, and I think I'll do a live on this because I know we've been choosing a word for the year for a long time. I didn't come up with that concept, but it's something I've invited my clients, my students to do. And I really, when I was meditating on that this year, I thought that it would be really helpful to come up with a masculine word and a feminine word. And what I mean by that is we have both divine feminine and divine masculine energies, right? Divine feminine is intuitive, receptive, collaborative, right? There's an openness, it's fluid. And our divine masculine is more, it provides the container, right? It's action oriented. There's a focus. We need both, because if we're just in the feminine, we're just like, oh, but nothing really happens. But if we're overly in the masculine, that's when you get the hustle, overwork, burnout, right? So we need both of those. So as I was choosing a word, I really was like, I really feel like my soul's guiding me to pick a word that represents my masculine energy and a word that represents my feminine. And for me, the masculine word was simple, like simplify, because it was like, oh, my divine masculine, as he takes care of my divine feminine, is like, keep it simple, Lisa. Don't overcomplicate, just very simple. Like keep everything simple. That includes like my self-care practices, but includes my teachings. I've always wanted to be a teacher that really simplifies things and doesn't overcomplicate. So that's been something in my energy for a long time, but this is like a whole other level, right? Like keep it simple, right? I've always said spirituality is simple. It's our ego that complicates it. So anyway, so for me, the thought, I'm keeping it simple. and there's a follow-up. Consistent, steady progress is the key. And that feels really good in my body. And then the last thought I have is I'm going to love myself no matter what. And that feels really good in my body, right? So as I set my goals, if March comes and I'm behind, right, I'm like, oh, I'm going to love myself through that. I'm going to evaluate, I'm going to check and see, okay, was there something I needed to do different? Or is this just going right on plan? I just didn't realize it was going to take longer. But I'm going to love myself and I'm going to practice that. So I'm just sharing those with you to give you examples, but you choose your own. I mean, feel free to borrow any of these if these help you, but you choose, you tune in. And so let's do that for a moment. So before I do the little meditation, just to remind you, I'll put in the comments a link to the Breakthrough Consult. And I know some of you that watch are already my clients, but if you know someone who you're like, oh my gosh, I think they're ready, send them the link for that. There's a consult. I will put the link for the free masterclass that's coming up at the end of January. It's called Creating Your Breakthrough Year. I'm so excited. I'm going to take you through a process to really receive the download of your divine vision. Yes, of your sacred vision for 2025. What is the vision for this year? And how do you create the roadmap to make that happen? And then also, I think it's on the 30th, I'm going to have a special Mother Mary class, and it's going to be really Mother Mary blessing the year. And what I was so excited about, you can look at the description. I'll put a link to that. That one's $33. You get the replay forever. And then I also pull an oracle card for each participant. But in that class, Mother Mary was so specific, and you can read it in the description, because I was like, how are you going to bless us? What do you mean by blessing our year? I was really tuning. I mean, it sounds lovely, but I'm like, what does that mean? I was like, does it mean we won't have challenges? And of course, I know the answer is no. There are things that we're going to go through this year that are going to stretch us, right? That are part of our divine curriculum. But she was like, no, there's these blessings, and they're so beautiful. It's like efficiency, like divine shortcuts, blessing you to meet the people you're meant to meet. I think there's like 9 of them. So you can look at them and see if they call to you. So all those, registration is open for all of those. The free masterclass, there is a replay provided that's only provided for 7 days. But the Mother Mary class that you're paying for, the $33, that one you get the replay for. There's no limit. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead. I'm going to drink a little tea. And we're going to do a little meditation. And I want to show you the other card actually that I pulled. This is a new deck also that I got, the Medicine Heart Oracle. And I'm not going to, wait, do I have it? I'm not going to read the whole thing from the book because it's very long. It's one of Alana Fairchild's new decks. But it's really interesting, right, that both these new decks have the word medicine in the title. I didn't do that on purpose, but I know that this year is going to be so much about sharing our medicine. I know that's something I've been talking about for years and years and years, but I feel like our medicine is so potent, especially because of the challenges that we've overcome or that we're still in the process, right? I know I shared on Instagram, on social media, one of the personal things Greg and I are going through right now, as he got a diagnosis of cancer in October. I sent it in my newsletter. I shared it in the social media. And so that experience which we're still going through it's like everything I teach, everything I've been teaching, everything I've been coaching on for years, everything, I'm getting to practice on this whole other level. And so I feel like I know so many of you went through your own transformative experiences in 2024, right? And all of that, as painful as it might have been, as much of a stretch as it might have been, I do believe it's like, that shamanic journey of taking in the poison and then learning to transmute it into medicine. And that's what I feel we're doing. So I'm just going to read this little part and look at this deck. Look at the book that comes with this deck. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, her booklets are always big, but this is a whole other level. I don't know Alana Fairchild. Oh, actually, I did meet her at a workshop, but anyway, she's great. So here goes. This circle is a call to a sacred homecoming. Even the most spiritually intrepid soul needs moments of restoration and rest to rally and replenish. The oracle is a divine call to return to the heart and to the love therein, to remember who you are, your purpose and your place, free from the projections, expectations, judgments, or hopes and wishes of the world. There's a lot more, but I think that's a really beautiful way to start a meditation. It's a homecoming back to yourself. And please let January be. I think I shared this in yesterday's reel on Instagram. By the way, if you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm going to be sharing a lot on Instagram. A lot of like just short little teachings that are going to be so helpful to you. And I was saying how I really feel January is really setting the foundation for the year. It's still, in the Chinese New Year, it's still the year of the dragon till I think the 23rd or something like that, when we start the year of the wood snake. So there is still healing, there is still processing, there is still the wood dragon is still working its energies in our lives. And so let's use that to go into this beautiful space. So I invite you to take a few cleansing breaths. And as you bring your awareness to your body, I invite you to visualize or bring your awareness to your lower body. Maybe you bring the palms of your hands like over your thighs or your knees, and visualize beautiful roots of light going down your legs and out the bottoms of your feet deep into the earth. And as you do that, allow your roots to release, to let go. Maybe there's still some stuff from 2024 that are hanging on to those roots, and just imagine your beautiful soul is very lovingly shaking those roots, right? Like, so that all of that stuff drops into the earth and the earth can recycle and compost. And then as that happens, breathe in through these roots. Breathe in this energy of alignment, of support, of strength, and let it move up your roots, up your legs, up your back, all the way to the crown of your head. And then bringing your hands to your heart, I invite you to close your eyes and welcome your beautiful soul. Just say something like, "Beautiful soul, I welcome you. I ask for your love and support in choosing my thoughts, the thoughts that will serve me the most in 2025 this year." And so now imagine that this beautiful light is emanating from your heart in front of you, and in front of you appears this beautiful path, illuminated. And as you stand on the path, you follow the path to a beautiful grove of trees, a circle of trees. There's a beautiful circle, and you're drawn to stand in the center. And all of these trees are sending you blessings. Maybe there's a willow tree, an oak tree, a maple tree, an evergreen. You might not even know the names, but you're aware that all these trees, the wind is blowing, and as it does, all of these blessings are coming to you. But they're also clearing the thoughts, right? When you do your thought inventory, they're also helping. They're saying, call on us to help you clear the thoughts that do not serve you. And so in this moment, your soul stands in front of you, and she looks just like you, just radiant with light. And as you look into her eyes, ask her, "Beautiful soul, show me, what is the one thought that is blocking me the most about this year? What thought am I having that doesn't serve me?" And your soul very wisely is holding that sentence, because the thought is just a sentence, and she places it in your hand. She shows it to you. This is the thought. And it's okay if you're not aware yet of what the thought is. You just know, like, oh my gosh, that's the thought that is not helping me. And so you put that thought aside. And now you ask your beautiful soul, what thought or thoughts will be helpful for this new year. And so now your beautiful soul, her crown chakra is radiating golden light, and it's landing like beautiful raindrops on your head. And it's stimulating these thoughts, these sentences. You might see words floating out of your head, and it's like, oh, those are the thoughts. And it's okay if you don't know what they are yet, but you might hear them. And if so, write them down, write them in your journal. And the trees, again, are sending you so much love, so much support. They're helping you to ground this wisdom from your soul, even if you're not consciously aware of it yet. And now we bring the palms of our hands together, giving thanks to your soul as your soul thanks you, giving thanks to the trees as the trees thank you. And we bow to each other and our own heart, and we step out of this beautiful inner journey with a namaste. Namaste, everyone. All right, thank you so much. And please feel free to share in the comments or in the chat whatever came up. If there was a thought that you identified, okay, this is the thought that's blocking me. Or if there's a thought that came to you that was like, oh my gosh, this thought feels amazing. I didn't share that. Like I said, I'll put the links to those events that are coming up. And I will be here next week for episode 113. It's such an honor to begin this new year with you. Like I said, I know this is going to be a breakthrough year, and I am committed to taking you, whoever wants to, you have free will, whoever wants to have that year where you finally totally break through whatever the limitation has been. And I know you've already broken through so many, or you wouldn't be here if you hadn't. But whatever is left, so that you can stand with so much inspiration, inspired, and be such an inspiration for the world. 2025 is a special year, everyone. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.